Happe. I am a co-founder of the Community Roundtable, which is about 5 years old, and we are a training, information services, and research company looking at how primarily businesses, but also nonprofit organizations are using community to change how they interact both with employees and their markets. Before that, I was in technology and in management consultings, and I started my career at the Pentagon. So I've had a lot of different things going on in my career, but I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur, but I ended up uniquely qualified for this particular role. My father was a minister in the Congregational Church, where the congregation hires and fires their minister. So he was practicing tacit leadership, or leadership based on the tacit control of his followers, I guess. And my mother was a community organizer. She ran the Nestle boycott for years and years. So I kind of watched that growing up. This online social media or social connection or socially mediated technology, whatever you want to call that, is self-actualizing for people, meaning it's helping them see each other and themselves more clearly, and that gives them power. And the transaction cost of organizing has dropped through the floor. What I'm seeing is lots of individuals start to understand they have a voice and sharing their opinions. And we're seeing people starting to explore that power that they have always had, but was too expensive for them to really pursue or feel like it was worth pursuing, except for crazy people like my mother. And organizations, because of their scale and because they controlled the channels, never had to acknowledge that power. And because it was fragmented, it wasn't as powerful. The balance of power is shifting between organizations and individuals. And I think that's a good thing, because it holds everybody more accountable. And it actually makes us deliver better products and better experiences. Only with age have I understood this, but I'm kind of a change junkie or a tough choice junkie. Well, and a lot of those tough choices haven't been made for me, but like I feel like my life is a series of them. Growing up, I was pretty isolated. My parents weren't the most affectionate people, and they were very hands-off, like the anti-helicopter parent. So like we were on, like when I was 9, I was making dinner for the family, doing my own laundry, like getting myself up to school, doing my homework. They were very passionate about what they were doing. And it's not that they didn't love me, but like both of them grew up in farms in Indiana. And so like, you kind of fend for yourself as children. I decided to go to Germany when I was 16 as an exchange student. And this is the 80s, so no credit card, no cell phone, like boom. And I think that experience stays with me today. And I learned from that you never sit on the curb in the rain forever. Like you might sit on the curb in the rain for a couple of hours, but eventually something's going to happen. Somebody's going to help you. The sun will come out. Like you're just not going to sit there forever. So I think that was kind of a seminal experience, just in being on my own, being really responsible for myself. And you learned this through challenge, is that the trick is to see that for every challenge there's opportunity. I see organizations spending millions of dollars being data driven, and I'm like, you're not data driven. You're gonna do what you want anyways. So like, why don't we just expose? I think there's a huge denial, particularly in U.S. culture and leadership, of who we really are. We have this idea of what we should be, and that's what we project, but that's not actually who we are. And that's the authenticity break that is really problematic. just do the right thing. Like, find an important problem to solve and keep working at solving that problem. And everything else will come along. But if you think about the business model first, and how can I make money, you're not going to bring people along. And then the second piece of that, and we don't talk about this a lot either, is having the faith that doing that will lead to success. And having the patience to invest in doing the right thing and the faith that that's going to result in something. And this is tough because from a financial perspective, it takes investment. Doing the right thing is rarely a simple step. And if it is, there's not a lot of opportunity there because somebody else has already figured it out. So the really interesting things are big, complex, hairy problems that will take a long, and our whole financial VC structure, how we build businesses, is all screwed up for solving important problems. And innovation is the challenge for our time. It's not efficiency. We have sucked the efficiency out of our organizations. We know how to play that game. Predictable, efficient. That's not how we're going to win in the future. How we're going to win in the future is coming up with new solutions to really complex problems. And I think all leaders are looking at how to innovate. And I'm like, you've got to have some faith to innovate. And you can't find data that is going to predictably tell you you're going to be successful. And so you have to have some kind of guiding principles, interests, passion, whatever you want to call that, to have that faith that what you're doing is important. I think it's having a frame or a context that's bigger than your work. And the thing that's going to win in this connected world is people who connect to really powerful guiding principles. You'll bring people along on your mission if you're really connected to something bigger than your own company. You have to be modest. You've got to assume you don't know everything, and you don't want to control everything. Because what I've found, and it's really profound, giving up control gets you so much more. And modesty is the core of that, which is I don't have all the answers, and I'm not going to tell you what to do. I have my experience, I have my perspective, I can tell you what I would do, but I can't tell you what you should do. I used to tutor kids in DC when I lived there and in San Francisco. And if they don't understand within a shadow of a doubt that you are supportive and you have their best interests at heart, you can't criticize them. Criticism has no impact if people don't think you're on their side. Which is also interesting because we criticize, if you look at when I was in management consulting, the professional development process was basically you're not good enough, and you're not good enough in all of these different ways. And it was impossible not to feel defensive in that. And then they'd come around and be like, you're very defensive. And you're like, well, you just told me I am not good in these 10 different ways. This new world requires a lot of leadership change, but people have been socially and educationally channeled into being sheep. And there's a lot of people that don't want to take responsibility for themselves. And so it's all well and good if leadership changes and becomes more open, but if other people don't come along, it's not going to work. So leadership is only maybe even less than half of the equation. You need people who feel empowered, want to be empowered, want to take responsibility for their own choices and their own role in the system. And I see all over the place that people are like, just give me a salary, I'll go to work. And I look at that and I'm like, you're just gonna go and do what somebody says all day? Like that's like you've died. You've like given your mind over to somebody else. Like, why would you live that way? Why would you spend 40, 50, 60 hours of your every week of your life that way? Unfortunately, the business culture, we're very trained, both educationally and in our organizations, to be declarative. People want you to have a strong opinion and put a period on it. And I tell people perfection is the enemy of engagement. You come to somebody with a complete thought, why should they bother giving you their perspective? You've already completed the thought.
Wow.